Hello and welcome to the Super Expander podcast. My name is Corey Phelps, your host. I'm a business and life success coach, wealth mentor, clinical hypnotherapist, breathwork facilitator, growth and expansion expert, speaker, investor, serial entrepreneur, former fitness professional, mom, dog lover, sunshine chaser, and deep down inside, I'm a self-proclaimed foodie. I started my personal development journey shortly after the birth of my daughter. I found myself in a career that I was absolutely miserable in. I was asking myself questions like, there's got to be more to life than this. I was completely unwilling to settle for a mediocre existence. So I became obsessed with creating peak performance in humans and really learning what it takes to tap into our unharnessed potential. The last 10 years have been a crash course in self-love, business, community building, empowerment, becoming resourceful despite a lack of resources, learning how to build wealth. And it's really truly my mission now to help others discover their deeper purpose and potential, to become more conscious leaders, to take ownership of their own personal wealth, to access their untapped potential. I am here to support you in achieving more growth, more abundance, more wealth, to truly become super expanders. So sit back, tune in, and prepare to expand. Hello, super expanders. Welcome to episode 2. We're diving into personal power, which is the most important piece of the triad of power, the trifecta of power. It's no coincidence that this is also one of the foundations of my coaching. It's a core point and source of power for a true super expander. And I believe that personal power is the key to true happiness. Every human needs to master personal power. And it's especially important for leaders. And after all, we are all the leaders of our own life. So it's really important for every single human being walking this planet to master personal power. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is, how it is that you can master it, what you need to do in order to master it. Personal power is the ability to achieve what you desire with integrity. It's no coincidence that integrity is one of the top 3 core values in my life. Have you ever done the core values exercise? Do you know what your top 3 core values are? Really, really powerful exercise if you haven't done it. Feeling an episode. Maybe we should do an episode on core values and go through the exercise together. So what are the characteristics that you need to harness personal power? Believe me, I think that the top thing for you to harness personal power is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to monitor your own emotions and feelings and effectively communicate them. What does that really mean, though? You see, so much of our communication can be emotionally charged, and emotions are very important things. But when we lead our communication with emotion, sometimes it doesn't take into account other people, or sometimes it doesn't even fully take into account our true desires and needs. So we'd never want to fully take emotions out of our communication or interactions, but your emotions shouldn't be the primary driver as you start to communicate. And especially when we're talking about inside of our businesses, and those sorts of things, because as leaders, we have to learn how to tailor our approach and really have an understanding for others and those kinds of interactions. So emotional intelligence really is the ability to get to the heart of the problem or the topic or the whatever needs to be discussed and navigate it with grace. Having an understanding of how our energy and our emotions and our language influences the world around us. Our communication it causes a ripple effect in the world, and emotional intelligence really takes that into account. It's basically being very responsible and careful for your own emotions, your own communications, as well as those around you. So to have a high emotional intelligence, and you really have to focus on, I think there's 4 key points and skills that to be very emotionally intelligent that you need to master. One of those, we'll go through them one by one. So self-management, which means that you're able to control impulsive feelings, behaviors, thoughts, emotions in a healthy way. Taking initiative to follow through on commitments and navigate and adapt to challenging circumstances. And I want to really point out that one of the key things inside of there too is, because we haven't talked about it yet, is commitments. When we make a commitment, whether it's to ourselves or to someone else, it is so important to honor those commitments. And that's really something that comes up in this piece of self-management. It's really, really important. Another skill inside of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. And as you can imagine, why that's so important, right? It means that you're able to recognize your own emotions and how they affect your thoughts and behaviors. And when we do that, we start to master our energy, because your thoughts cause feelings and emotions in your body, and your thoughts really turn into beliefs. The more you think something over and over and over, it becomes a belief. The more we have a belief of something, the stronger the emotion is ingrained into our body, and we pass those on to, if you're a parent, if you're a leader, we pass those on to the people in our world very often. And it's really, really important to have an awareness of those things so that we can create and break generational patterns and become more aware. So it's so important. Inside of self-awareness, it's important for you to know your strengths, know your weaknesses. Having self-confidence all comes into play here. And that really builds off of the first skill, which is that self-management, because when I was talking about those commitments and honoring your commitments, when we don't honor our commitments to ourselves, it truly eradicates self-confidence, or erodes, not eradicates. Which, as we move outside of ourselves, the next skill we have to master is social awareness, having empathy for those around us. Such an important thing for leadership, for conscious human beings to really be aware of those around us, moving outside of ourselves, removing the ego, so that you can understand the emotions, the needs, and the concerns of other people. And as you do that, you become way more adept at being able to pick up on cues, emotional cues, social cues. It allows you to feel part of a community, to feel socially comfortable, and to really recognize the dynamics of communities, of organizations. And I would say that especially now, even more so than ever before, as we have just gone through this crazy things that we have experienced inside of the world with this pandemic that seems to just continue on and on and on. We as human beings truly we're community-based people. We want to be around other people. We thrive in groups. It's really, really important. So it's so important to have social awareness, to really have an understanding and empathy for those around us, which is a big piece of emotional intelligence. And relationship management. That's the last piece, the last skill for mastering inside of emotional intelligence. So you know how to develop and maintain good relationships, or it's something that is needed to be worked on in order to achieve that emotional intelligence. It's so, so important. And inside of being able to do that, effective, clear communication is an absolute need. And you can see if we aren't operating at the top of our emotional intelligence, if we haven't done the work to heal our own past traumas, to face our shadows, to do that really deep inner work and inner healing, we bring and project those on to other people, and it becomes a challenge inside of relationships. So really being able to build effective, clear, strong relationships, we have to do the inner work, because when we don't, it's really hard to build those lasting, strong relationships. So when we're working on building those relationships and stepping into that emotional intelligence, it allows us, when we're inside of communities, in our jobs, in our workplace, as we build our business, to be able to really manage conflict and work with other people well. Have you ever felt stuck? Like something is blocking you from reaching your full potential? You feel like if only you had access to the tools to unlock your deeper purpose and potential, if you could surround yourself with a community of like-minded people on a similar growth journey, you're just ready to kick fear, doubts, imposter syndrome to the curb. Enter the Energetix Society, your premium membership to amplify and unlock your deeper purpose. The Energetix Society is a donation-based membership filled with healing modalities to help you build more wealth and more freedom inside your life, inside your business, all for the price you choose to pay. Inside the Energetix Society, you get to have it all: wealth, impact, success, connection, fulfillment. And all you have to do is text 202-918-3235. Again, text 202-918-3235. Send us the word wealth, and you will receive the link to join the donation-based membership of the Energetix Society straight to your cell phone today. All right, so how exactly do you do it? How do you harness the personal power needed to be a super expander? How do you develop such a high level of emotional intelligence? I sort of hinted at it, and I was just talking about relationships. It really begins with doing that inner child healing, facing those mother wounds, the father wounds, doing the shadow work. And I want to stop here because I feel like it's a very trendy thing to be talking about, but it's so, so important. And when you hear the word trauma, at least I think for me, prior to really diving in and doing this work, I used to think of trauma as being like some level of violence. And the truth about trauma is we all have trauma, and there are leveling degrees of that, of course, but we all have trauma. We all experience trauma as children. And that really could come from the lens of, just not having a need met when you're a child, which really could be as small as, you wanted to sleep with a teddy bear and you cried for it and your parents wouldn't bring it to you, which sounds in your adult life as something kind of inconsequential. But when we're children, we don't have the bandwidth. That's the lens with which we see it through. It feels and could be construed as a massive emergency. And when we are children, that is when our subconscious mind is being formed during that 0 to 7 age frame. And all of those little traumas that we experienced have imprinted themselves inside of our brain, and it really dictates how the lens with which we see the world today. So it is actually quite important for every single person, whether you believe that you've had some sort of trauma or not, to go back and do that work. And I don't mean that from a sense of like creating a problem where there isn't a problem. That's not it. It's just really going back and tapping into that subconscious mind and healing those patterns that you have been ingrained into our subconscious mind. So doing that inner work is such a huge piece of being able to step into awareness and be super clear and rewrite those patterns so that we don't project them into our relationships and onto other people. It allows us to truly be able to walk in that polarity, like experience happiness even when there's sadness around us, because you truly can have those things. You could have happiness and sadness happening in your life simultaneously. And when we have mastered emotional intelligence and our personal power, we learn to be able to experience and walk with the duality of all of it. We're able to communicate our needs and desires from a place of love. Imagine if the entire world was able to do that, to communicate their needs from a place of love. Just let that sink in for a second, right? Now we see how so very important it is for all of us to do the work, because I really believe that super expanders doing this work is going to change the world. So when we're able to do that, we're able to have clear boundaries, and having clear boundaries actually allows us to be able to honor other people's boundaries and do it with respect and not have our feelings hurt. It allows us to be fully connected to our mind, to our body, to our soul. Yes, I know that sounds cliche, but it truly does. And when we're able to do that, we are so tapped into our intuition. And I could sit here and riff on intuition for like the longest time. Truly is the seat of infinite intelligence. It is your direct dial-up and connection to source, the universe, God. It's literally inside of you. And when we are clear and connected, that is where the magic happens. When we operate from personal power, we get to have deep, meaningful relationships with ourselves, with the loved ones, and the world around us. So what sort of characteristics are exemplified when we are in full personal power? Integrity, resilience, strength, clear, strong communication, clear boundaries, respect, confidence, motivation, trust, freedom, intuition, love, leadership, just to name a few. Personal power truly equals a deep connection to intuition and source power. And all super expanders have mastered and are on a journey to mastering personal power. Feels so good. Just even talking about it makes me feel like so connected to my own personal power. And it literally lights me up to help and support you in connecting to yours, to amplifying your emotional intelligence, because it's truly going to make a change in the world. It is going to create a ripple effect. If you like what you heard, stop, drop, and leave a 5-star review and hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And as always, sharing is caring, so snap a pic and share this episode with another super expander.